It started with something that should have been routine. I work as a systems analyst and occasionally assist with IT infrastructure at different locations. Last month, I was assigned to help a retail chain upgrade their surveillance system. Nothing unusual. I spent hours going through static-filled footage to test the clarity of their new setup. I was looking for motion, resolution quality, dead pixels. That's when I saw myself. In the footage dated 2 weeks prior, I spotted a man standing near the back of the store, behind a shelf of discounted toys. He was motionless, half-shadowed under a flickering ceiling light. It wasn't just a resemblance. It was me. My face, my posture, even the small scar above my left eyebrow. But I had never been in that store before. Not once in my life. I paused the footage and stared at the figure. He stood there for about 30 minutes, not moving, until finally walking out of frame. I told myself it was a glitch, a case of mistaken identity, a weird double. I shook it off, but something in the way he looked at the camera as he walked past, it didn't feel accidental. It felt deliberate. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing the face on the screen, frozen mid-frame, eyes locked onto the lens. Onto me. The next day, I came back early to review more footage. And again, there he was, in a different aisle, different clothes, on a different date. Still me, still staring right at the camera. I didn't know what I was looking at. Maybe a prank, deep fake. But no one knew I'd be the one reviewing the tapes. I hadn't even known until the day before. The dates stretched back for weeks. I checked the access logs. No tampering, no anomalies. It only got worse from there. I became obsessed. I started offering help with security audits, volunteering for site visits, finding excuses to check camera systems in offices, warehouses, even schools. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find. Maybe that it was just some weird trick of the light. Maybe confirmation that I was losing my mind. But the more footage I found, the more I saw him. Myself, always in different clothes, always in different places. Once, I found him riding an escalator in a metro station, halfway across the city. Another time, sitting alone in the back pew of a church at midnight. I zoomed in. He was wearing a gray hoodie, head down, but just as the camera caught him clearly, he looked up, right at the lens, right at me. There was one clip that shook me more than the rest. It was from a suburban home security feed. A family had reported strange noises in their backyard at night. I pulled the footage and fast-forwarded. Nothing for hours. Then, at 2:47 a.m., motion triggered the recording. He walked into the frame. My face, my build. He moved slowly, scanning the backyard, then turned and stared at the kitchen window. The worst part? I recognized the house. I'd never been there in person, but I remembered it. Years ago, I'd seen it in a friend's Instagram story. The layout, the patio furniture, the cracked pink bird bath. It wasn't my house, but it was familiar. He had chosen it for a reason. I started tracking the timestamps, making a map, logging his appearances. There was no clear pattern, no timeline that made sense. The distances were too far apart to travel by car, let alone on foot. Yet sometimes he showed up in multiple places on the same night. I avoided mirrors. I avoided cameras. I stopped going outside unless I had to. I was terrified that one day I'd walk past a storefront window and see him standing on the other side, staring out. After weeks of digging, I stumbled on an old server in a storage room at an abandoned municipal building. It was dusty and half dead, but still operational. The local government had once used it for transit surveillance across the city. Metro stations, crosswalks, parking lots. I copied the database and brought it home, hoping to comb through it in peace. It was a mistake. The footage dated back nearly 10 years. I told myself it was overkill, that I was chasing a ghost. But within the first hour of reviewing clips, I found him again. This time from 8 years ago at a tram stop I used to pass on my way to college. He was wearing a long black coat and a knitted scarf I had owned in my final year. The timestamp said November 14th, my birthday. I clicked into other files, dozens more, hundreds. My face appearing again and again, outside nightclubs I'd never entered, in offices I never worked in, once even walking a dog I've never owned. Every time he glanced up just before the camera cut out, just before the file ended, as if he knew I'd be watching years later. Some of the footage was grainy, but I could always tell it was him, me. And I started to notice something else. He was aging. In early clips, he looked younger than I remembered being at that time. In later ones, older than I am now. Grayer, more gaunt. Eyes sunken like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. It was like he was living a life I wasn't. Somewhere alongside mine, just out of reach. Then I found the folder labeled unindexed. It wasn't on the database map. Just a raw file dump with no logs. The videos were strange, mostly black and white, all shot from static-mounted cameras. But the locations were wrong. One showed a hallway that stretched on forever. Another, a staircase that twisted back on itself like a Mobius strip. In each one, he was there, my double, walking, pausing, staring directly into the lens. And in one video from just 2 weeks ago, the camera was in my apartment building, on my floor, pointed at my front door. He stood there for 3 hours. After I saw the clip from my hallway, I unplugged every camera in my apartment. I blacked out my windows with cardboard and duct tape. I stopped answering my phone, stopped going to work, stopped talking to anyone. I couldn't shake the feeling that the second I let my guard down, he'd be inside, watching, waiting. But isolation didn't help. The longer I stayed alone, the more I heard things. Soft clicks in the walls, low static from outlets. One night, my TV turned on by itself, showing nothing but a frozen image. Me, sitting on the couch, but from the angle of the ceiling corner. The shot held steady for 30 full seconds before the screen went black. I never owned a ceiling camera. I smashed the TV and threw the pieces into the alley, but the next morning, there it was again, whole, clean, in its usual place, waiting, like nothing had ever happened. Then came the pictures, printed photographs, no envelope, no return address. Just a plain manila folder slid under my door one morning. Inside, dozens of high-resolution stills, each one a frame from surveillance footage. Me, in places I'd never been, standing in a hospital nursery, watching children through a schoolyard fence, leaning over an old woman's hospital bed. All of them time-stamped, all of them dated in the future. The last photo made me fall to my knees. It was my bedroom, my bed, me sleeping, and the other me, standing beside the bed, bent slightly forward, staring at my face. The timestamp was tonight. I've blocked every vent. I've locked the door with 3 deadbolts. I haven't blinked in what feels like hours. But I know it won't matter. He knows I'm watching. He always knew, and now he's coming.